Hey everybody on YouTube. This is my new channel, 1776 or Bust. I'm going to start actually doing some reviews on pistols that I own. I'll try to give you as much feedback and as much insight as I have based upon what I've experienced with them, how I carry them, if I carry them a lot or not, how they shoot, functionality of them. Obviously it's not going to be a super huge detailed explanation. I'll try to keep it as short and as streamlined as possible so people can get what they need and then move on from the channel. Again, we're looking at the first pistol that I have. This is not the first purchase I ever made, but it is one of probably the best purchases I've ever made. This is a Walther P99. You can see on the slide itself it says AS, and that stands for anti-stress. I'll talk about the trigger system in a minute, but first I'm going to go over some of the basics of the pistol itself. Again, it's 9mm, so it's at this point a 10-round magazine. In the state of New York, we have 10-round mag limits, so unfortunately that's all I can get this in. So it's a 10-round mag, but it does come normally with a 15-round magazine, 2 of them to be exact from the factory, in 9mm or 12 rounds for the 40 Smith & Wesson. Again, it came with 3-dot polymer sights. I removed those as soon as I got the pistol. They were pretty much, you know, the typical Walther plastic kind of garbage sights. I would say that was probably the only downside of the gun when I purchased it. Again, you have your Picatinny rail on the front. You have one notch there to add a flashlight, or of course a laser if you choose to do so. Again, we'll talk about the trigger system in a moment, which is kind of the reason why I bought the gun, because I think it's a very safe pistol, especially for people who are not comfortable carrying a gun that's, you know, with a round in the chamber that has a very light trigger pull. But again, we'll talk more about that in a moment. Has a Tenefer coating on the slide, obviously very resistant to corrosion, very nice finish to it. It's matte finish, so it's not a lot of shine, it's not dull, but it just has the right amount of sheen to it, and I like that finish. It's very nice and clean looking. Again, for the internals, it has 2 drop safeties and of course firing pin blocks, so if you drop it, it's not going to go off. You won't shoot yourself or your dog or your cat or your neighbor. It's pretty much as safe as you're going to get. Again, you have your typical Walther ergonomics. You can see that you have that slight hump in the back here. I would not say it's as reminiscent to the PPX. PPX has a much more pronounced hump in the back, but I would say this is probably the granddaddy of the Walther PPQ, or the daddy of the Walther PPQ, because of that hump in the back as well. So very ergonomic, no issues with that. I don't know anybody who's ever handled one of these that has said, boy, the ergonomics suck on this thing. Excuse me. Again, when we look at the serrations in the back, you don't have front serrations, you only have rear serrations, so you do have a smooth finish to the slide in the front. If you want to do a press check, you still can. It's a little bit more difficult, but you can still get it done. Again, I don't do a lot of press checking. I always pull from the rear. It just makes me a little bit more cautious, I guess, in that manner. The gun has been cleared. I should have said that in the beginning. However, I try to practice as much safety as I can, whether I'm making a video or cleaning the pistol, so it has been safety checked. Here you have your empty mag, but just to make sure nobody gets angry, and this is my first video, you can see that it is empty. There's nothing in the chamber. It's pretty good to go, and that's that. Again, we look at the back straps. These are replaceable, so you do come with a small, medium, and large. I have the mediums on there. I would say one of the biggest downers of the pistol when I first purchased it, besides the sights, was actually the grip itself. Very smooth, not a lot of traction to the grip. You don't have a lot to purchase in regards to the grip itself. Just some real minor dots. I can't even call it stippling, but definitely minor dots there. So what I did was I went out and bought some Talon grips in the rubber texture. Made the gun that much better, in my opinion. In regards to what this gun can be found in, you can find it in a 9 and in a 40, as I've said before. You can also find them in subcompact models as well, in the 40 and the 9. I choose the full size, or I would even call it a duty size, not really a full size, but definitely a duty size. The barrel itself, again, 4-inch barrel on the 9mm. You get a 4.2 for the 40 and the 3.5 on the subcompact. So again, very good system. I would say that it is very comparable to a size of a Glock 19. I would say it's definitely a little bit heavier than Glock 19, but I think it's just as doable in regards to concealing as a Glock 19 would be. In regards to taking the gun down, basically all you do is you push back a little bit, drop the 2 tabs in the front. Whoops, let me do that again. Actually, it's in battery, that's why. Let me just pull that trigger, drop the gun, There you go. And everything's gone. Everything's out. You have your internals, your basic field stripping. Again, I'm not going to pull everything apart. I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with how to do that at home. I would say another downer was the fact that it is a plastic guy rod. Is it like a game changer for me? No. I don't think it makes really much of a difference if it's steel or plastic. This is very low recoil. I mean, yes, it's a 9mm, but the barrel and the slide itself are pretty heavy. So it does, I think, offset a lot of that recoil impulse that you feel in the hand. Again, just to push it back onto the slide, actually let me just look at the slide really quick. You can see that the slide itself doesn't have a lot of steel in it. This all here inside is going to be polymer or plastic. You know, again, some people may say it's not steel, so how long would it really last? I don't know, to be honest with you. My goal is to own as many of these firearms until I grow old and can pass them off to my son or daughter for that matter. But at this point, I would say that I don't think it's going to make a big deal at this point in regards to the operation and functioning of the pistol itself. Now, one of the most important features of this is, of course, the trigger system. If you've never handled a P99, but if you've seen other videos on the P99, although there aren't too many to mention actually on YouTube, but if you've looked at the Ionics, which are called Canics or Ionic, whatever, if you've looked at those videos, it had a similar system where you had a double action, single action. I think those were I don't think it's the SA, I think it's just the Canic SF, but I'm not sure because there's like 3 or 4 different models. You can also look at the Smith & Wesson 99, which was, I guess, the original of this one, so that's probably the granddaddy, this is the daddy, and the PPQ now is the child. But I would say that this, obviously, to me, is considered the original. I think Walther, hands down, makes some of the finest pistols in the world. I would say that they are just as good as an H&K, a SIG, a Glock, if not better. But again, you know, you look at the trigger mechanism here. Again, you have that anti-stress trigger. Basically, what you do is you lock the trigger back in step there, and you have a very light brake. This is actually your single action mode. Now, for those people who are, I guess, safety conscious, where they're not necessarily happy with the fact that you have a very light trigger pull, because remember, this is about 4.5 pounds, and it goes off. You do have that double action. That double action is a 9-pound pull, and it is heavy. I'm not going to lie. That is definitely a heavy trigger. It's smooth. There's not a lot of grit in there, but it takes a full trigger pull to get that bad boy back. So you do have that option. Now, the beauty of this thing is when you do rack it and you put it in the battery, you can put an anti-stress, which is right there. You holster it, put it in a nice Kydex holster or some sort of holster that you have at home, and it'll hold it intact, no issues. That right there is more than likely the PPQ trigger that you have right out of the box. But in this case, if you're not comfortable with carrying that way, you can always take this, here's your decocker, and it goes right back into double action, which is really sweet. It is a striker fired pistol. You can see in the back you have that striker indicator right back there. So you don't have the hammer. And again, I would recommend this gun for anybody who wants a double action, single action, but isn't sure if they want to go hammer fired or striker fired. In regards to the trigger itself, you know, once it goes off and you go to your reset, the reset is super, super light. And you can see that right there. And again, I apologize, my hands are shaking a little bit. I just got it back from the gym, so I'm a little bit buzzed right now. But you can see that there's no wall there. I mean, it's really light and it breaks again. In my opinion, one of the most superior triggers out on the market today. I would say that this trigger in single action mode may even beat the PPQ by just a hair. For those of you out there who are saying, well, I have the VP9, it's the best trigger, or I have a 320, that's the best trigger, or I have a Glock, and blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm not trying to say they're not. I'm just giving you what I've experienced. I've owned a VP9. I actually sold it. I was not happy with it. I felt the trigger was actually a little mushy. Not terribly mushy, but not as good as they made it out to be. They tried to say it's as good as a PPQ. In my opinion, it's not. And I would say it's not as good as this one right here. The 320, I own that right now currently. I think that's a superior trigger over the VP9, but it's still not superior to this or the PPQ. I would say it's a very, very close second to both of those. I've owned Glocks. I've had a Glock 19, a 17, a 26. Those triggers to me were good triggers out of the box. You know, some people say they're not that good. I thought they were actually pretty good, and I would even say they were better than the VP9 when I got it. Maybe I just got a bad one. I don't know, but yeah, I got rid of it. and I've been sticking with Walther since, and I've been very happy. Again, for those of you who are looking for a pistol that has the double action, single action capability, this would definitely be a winner for me, and hopefully for you. Again, if you're looking at the Ionic, if you're looking at the MR9 from Magnum Research, I would say definitely take a look at this. It may cost you a little bit more, but I think you're going to be much happier at the craftsmanship, the quality. You know it's a Walther, you know it's straight from Germany, and I think that is a win-win no matter what. Again, I look at this pistol and I honestly would say that this is definitely in the top 5 striker-fired polymer pistols in the market. Unfortunately, it doesn't get a lot of attention. I don't know what the reason is for that. Maybe it's because of the old Smith & Wesson 99, which did not have a very good track record with consumers, but at the same time, I would still say this is one of the best on the market as it stands. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this really quick review on a P99. I hope that you actually will subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them. Be kind, don't be nasty. You know, there's no reason to fight. We're all grown-ups here, hopefully. And you know, if you have any insights that may open my eyes to anything, then feel free to share those. And again, subscribe, and hopefully we can get this channel rolling. So again, I'll start saying it now, and I'll keep saying it at the end of every video I make. Freedom is never free. And thanks for watching 1776 or Bust.